the Vice Chair of the Texas Democratic Party, and welcome to my hometown, Dallas-Fort Worth. Thank you all for being here. This is such an important opportunity. We know more, if we haven't known it before, we definitely know it now, that elections have consequences. And so I want to thank you all for being here as we prepare for an election within our Texas Democratic Party to elect our next chair of the Texas Democratic Party. And I want to first of all thank all the candidates who are here. This is like forum number 676. And so you have put in the work going across the state to make your case to Democrats and to the SDC. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you all for being here. You'll get to hear from them in just a moment. Today we are at a crossroads in our nation. We are in need of leaders who are ready to stand up and fight this regime that is working to take us back, not decades, but likely centuries. Yes. Some of the things that are being put out from our nation's capital, they're more than just scary. This is a time for us to stop, re-galvanize, and move forward. And we will do that in the Texas Democratic Party on March 29th once we elect the new chair that will help us shape the future, not only of Texas, but of this country. In the last few weeks, we have elected our new chair for the Democratic National Committee. And yes. And right now, the fellow DNC members who are here, if you can just wave your hand, we spent a nonstop marathon, 12 hours in Washington, D.C., electing our new chair. And when those candidates came to Texas, what they said was, the future of the Democratic Party in this nation goes through Texas. They recognize that, and so do we, which is why this election for our next party chair is so critical, and we are glad that you are here today. Despite some losses, the TDP has made some incredible gains over the last few years. We had an incredible coordinated campaign. We fielded a candidate in every statewide election, and in every state senate race, and in 85% of the House races. We have done unprecedented recruiting in the last 2 years, and we will continue to do that. So I just want to say thank you. Welcome to my hometown. Now I'm going to bring up my friend, maybe he's waiting behind the wings, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you are able, please stand as we give honor to our country. Fred Nickens, thank you for coming and welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Frederick Nickens. I am the chair of the Veterans Caucus. So please, if you would, gentlemen, remove your hats at this time, please, and repeat after me, because I'm a soldier, so I'm doing this. I don't do this anymore. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we're going to do one more. We're going to honor the Texas flag. Now I put my hand in. Ready? Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, and indivisible. Yay! All right, let's get this party started, friends. Yeah.
There you go.
All right, good afternoon, Texas Democrats. Good afternoon, Texas Democrats. All right. I think we all know the reason why we're here. There's an exciting race happening to lead our party and to lead our state forward. My name is Cardall Coleman. I have the pleasure of serving as the chair of the Dallas County Democratic Party. And I want to welcome you to Dallas County. This work is not just about Dallas County, it's about all of us who do the work on the ground day in and day out. And I want to recognize a few special people who are in the room, my colleagues, the other county party chairs. I asked them that they'll join me on stage. So if you are county chair, and in the audience today, will you join me on stage? All right. Look at these chairs. Come on. Give it up for them one more time. Really quickly, we'll start with Chair Gayton. We'll have them introduce themselves and let you know what county they are the chair of.
Crystal Gayton.
Yes. Chair of the greatest county in Texas, Tarrant County. Where y'all at, Tarrant County? Tarrant County, where you at?
Michael Fladmark, Henderson County Chair, East Texas.
Larry Davis, Chairman of the Hunt County Democrats, way over in Greenville, Texas. And also Vice President of Texas Democratic County Chair Association. Thanks all y'all for coming out.
Good afternoon. My name is Kay Hart. I'm the county chair in Parker County, Texas, which is Weatherford. And I also serve as the president of the Texas Democratic County Chairs Association.
Good afternoon. I'm Delia Parker Mims, and I am chair of the dynamic Denton County Democratic. Denton County, stand up, please.
I am Kelly Blackburn. I am the very proud chair of Ellis County, which is Waxahachie. Sarah Whitaker. I'm the Kaufman County Democratic Chair. Let's go Kaufman!
I'm Susie Stansel. I'm the county chair for the smallest county in the state, but the loudest, Rockwall County.
So Jeremy Sitka, Collin County, the largest red county, so we need to change that.
I'm Jim Duncan from the big red Wise County. We're a minority, but we are trying harder. It's great to be here.
I want to thank all these folks on the stage for the work that they do day in and day out. You heard from deep blue all the way to red, but we have a candidate forum. I'm going to elect a state party chair that's going to change that fact all around our state. So we're looking forward to that. We want to bring up our moderator for this afternoon, Mrs. Kat Vargas.
Howdy, I'm Kat. Usually I'm talking Texas politics in people's phones. Again, I'm Kat Vargas with Howdy Politics. I will be your moderator today. I have seen lots of Howdy doers. Howdy Politics is a wonderful Instagram community that we've built over the last 2 years, focusing specifically on Texas politics. So our candidates are with us today for the Texas Democratic Party chair are, and we're going to list in order they're going to be seated. First up, we have Aaron Trujillo. Okay, perfect. We have Mary Gomez. We have Patsy Woods Martin. We have Steve Miller. We have Delia Parker Mims, who just a moment ago. We have Patricia Oliveras. Maybe we have her. We have Kendall Scudder. and I just realized I skipped over Lily Schechter. All right, so now that we've got all of our wonderful candidates on stage, let's get started. We're gonna go over some ground rules first. So the rules and format, responses to questions will be no longer than 60 seconds, like an actual 60 seconds. I don't have a buzzer, but I can be like buzz really loud. So 60 seconds, you can keep it to that. We're gonna go in the order of the candidate seating from this side, that side. It says right to left, but you guys are on a different side that I'm on. The questions are going to be asked, like I said, in order. They are sourced from the co-sponsors for today, the county parties and caucuses, and from the question form that was circulated online prior, so you may see your question pop up in here. The first 3 questions will be answered by every candidate, as well as the closing questions. The remaining questions are only going to be asked by candidates before we switch over to the next question, so we get lots of them in. For rebuttals, as the moderator, I will give a candidate a 30-second rebuttal if name checked. Only if your name is checked. We might have to do that. We'll give a candidate permission to do so, but we also may need to move along if we've got to. All right, are we all ready to get started? So for opening questions, everyone will answer this one. Here's our first one. What qualifications and experience makes you an ideal candidate for Texas Democratic Party chair?
Howdy, everybody. I'm Aaron Arguijo. So I ran a U.S. Senate race in 2020 against Ted Cruz. Since then, I've been involved, kind of sat around the table like a lot of you and worried about the situation that our country is in, the situation that our state is in, and I decided to make a difference, and I've been pursuing, I started with a Senate race. But I'm a small business owner. I have a small company that manages hospitals and surgery companies. I'm very familiar with fundraising. I also have a few strategies that we can use with the Democratic Party. I feel like there are a lot of tools that we already have that I feel like we're not utilizing. I've also been a part of the Indigenous Peoples Caucus of Texas since consummation or since inception. And so, yeah, I've been working with other candidates. I've worked with John Lida. I've worked with Carlos Lopez, all candidates of House districts, state districts. Currently, right now, I'm traveling all over Texas on Sundays, and I am participating in the mass deportations that are happening across the United States and Texas, and I've been able to recruit about 15 people already thus far to run for local offices as well as state seats. So my name is Aaron Arguijo. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. It's so wonderful to see so many people out there. Me, myself, as a candidate or candidate for Democratic Party chair, I think I'm the best candidate because I have the experience in accounting and also as a candidate who can run a campaign with very little money. And so that means that I have a message that was resonating with the people. So I feel that I know that I can connect with a lot of new voters, a lot of people around the state. I'm also, a lot of people ask me what is my platform. I'm always saying what isn't my platform. So I kind of want to touch base on making sure we take care of the environment, women, and for sure small business, which is something that I really want to get a lot of people to help with. So I'm looking forward to helping the Democratic Party in any capacity. So thank you so much. My name is Medi Gomez, Medi, M-E-R-I. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Patsy Woods Martin, and I am thrilled to be here today in this Union Hall. Unions and the Texas Democratic Party have had important partnerships all throughout our history, and that working together, that is how we can win races. I have a rich, deep history in Democratic politics. I have to tell you, in the late 80s, I sat at a kitchen table with 3x5 cards and a Tupperware bread box, building a voter file for Ann Richards. I guess that was the van in the 80s. I've run a statewide organization that helped flip seats and win races across the state. And in the last decade alone, I've built teams to raise about $30 million for candidates in Texas. Finally, I know this state. I've lived all over the state. I've worked all over the state at Annie's List, from Houston to the Metroplex. Now I live in Montague County, which is very rural. I understand what it takes to win elections in big cities, suburbia, and small towns, and I'm ready to put my experience to work for the people of Texas.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Reverend Steve Miller. I have an opening statement that I would like to read. I'm going to deviate a little bit from your question in order to read this opening statement. I would like to take this time to correct a false statement and narrative that is very disappointing to me. Last week, there was an East Texas town hall held just 25 miles from my home. Event organizers released a statement saying that I was invited to attend this event and that I sent a response declining this invitation, with only one candidate of 9 accepting. I did not receive an invitation to attend this town hall, nor did I send a response declining. Even further, the day before the event, I called the accepting candidate to clarify that I did not receive an invitation and asked them to call co-organizers to correct and inform them. The accepting candidate said they would. The candidate then told me it was their event and that I could attend, but I would not be allowed to speak. While being introduced, the candidate stood by while co-organizers continued to spread this false narrative. It takes a certain kind of liberty and privilege to lie on other people and then fully expect to be believed over my dissents to the contrary. Character matters.
Good afternoon. I'm Delia Parker Mims, Chair of the Denton County Democratic Party, and I appreciate that question. I stand before you with a track record of success. We flip Texas one county at a time, and that means every county's got to be engaged. Their engagement may look different, but they've got to be engaged. In Denton County, we are fighters. So Denton County people in the house today? Yeah! And in Denton County, the 7th largest county in the state of Texas, we are the largest county under my leadership to increase Democratic turnout. Where the nation has gone down, where the Texas turnout has gone down, in each election cycle in Denton County, we have gone up. We've increased turnout, we've increased volunteerism. We went from 200 people volunteering to over 900 people volunteering in this last election cycle. We went from a $20,000 get out the vote to a $200,000 and having raised that in a matter of weeks. We know what it takes to stop this. We do not have the luxury to continue to fight one another. We must become one team and we must be organized. But throwing money at a burning building doesn't do us any good. We need a strategic plan and we need to, thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patricia Olivares, and I am running to be your next chair of the Texas Democratic Party. 4 generations of my family have served in the military. My grandfather started the tradition. He served in Korea. My Uncle Al served in Vietnam. My Uncle Henry served in Desert Storm, and I served in the Marines, and I deployed overseas to Iraq and Afghanistan. So as you can see, public service was instilled in me from a very early age. For the last 6 years, I've worked in electoral politics. I've held all sorts of roles. I've been political director. I've been a candidate. I've been a consultant. So you name it, I've done it. I understand what it takes to run these coordinated campaigns. Most recently, I was Director of Government Relations for Service Women's Action Network in Washington, D.C., an organization that advocates on behalf of military women and women veterans. I am very proud to say that one of the most historic pieces of legislation that I worked on was the PACT Act,
which is the promise to address comprehensive toxins, because so many veterans were affected by the burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan. Why am I running? Because we need to fight for Texas. It is very dangerous what is happening to our country. You can look at war-torn countries and you can say, oh, that can't happen here. It absolutely
We're at
can.
time.
So thank you very much for your time.
Are there any Texas Democrats here? Y'all, one more time. Are there any Texas Democrats in this house right now? I believe that's what it sounds like when we all work together, because we win together when we work together. My name is Lily Schechter, and I'm running for State Democratic Party Chair because I have the proven track record of already doing that in Harris County. I was the county party chair for the largest county for 2 terms. We won the midterm elections. We won the 2020 elections. We swept both elections. And the way we did that is we all came together and worked together around a shared vision and plan. And now I want to take that experience that I have at the county and bring it to the state. So the SDEC, for the TDP, for the county party chairs, at the end of the day, it's not whether you're rural, urban, suburban, it's that we're Texas Democrats who are fighting to push back against the Trump administration. And the way we do that is building for 26, 28, 30, and have a fight at the table for redistricting at 31. So again, one more time, any Texas Democrats in the house? That's what it sounds like when we work together, so thank you.
Just a quick note for candidates, we've now got time over here so you can see as well. That way, hopefully, I don't have to tell you time.
What's happening, North Texas? My name's Kendall Scudder. I grew up with lesbian mamas in East Texas, and that's how you know that I know how to fight. When I was 12 years old, Republicans were fighting to take kids like me out of our homes and put us in foster care. So I started knocking on doors. And in the last 20 years, I've served on every level of leadership in our state party. I've been a precinct chair, been an interim county chair. I've served on the SDEC. I currently serve as the vice chair for finance in the state party. I was nominated for the Senate in the most conservative Senate district in the state of Texas, where I felt ignored and neglected by the party apparatus. And I ran for office in one of the bluest parts of the state where I won. And I currently serve as one of the directors of the Dallas Central Appraisal District. Look, y'all, I know where the landmines are because I've stepped on all of them. And I know this party like the back of my hand. I love this party. And I hope that you'll give me the opportunity, after seeing all the work I've done over the last 22 years in the trenches with you, to help lead us out of this very scary time that we're in now. Thank you all.
This one's a fun one, and you can use some air 60 seconds to think if you need to think. You have 5 words or less to create a bumper sticker describing Texas Democrats' slogan for the 2026 midterm election. What are your 5 words? And we're going to go across the stage.
Texas Democrats, you hit us, we hit you back.
Got 5 words. It's like your bumper sticker, 5 words or less.
Well, so the 3 words that I use for myself, and I'd like to add 2 extra of those, are truth, authentic, and with soul. And the other 2 words I would like to put is powerful and educated. So.
Texas Democrats, powering progress, protecting Texans.
Yeah. Texas Democrats, a new hope.
Texas Democrats, one team.
Don't mess with Texas.
Don't fix it. I'm not good at this. 5 words or less to define all the work that we're doing here today is very difficult. Kick fucking ass.
I'm breaking the word count rule. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be proud boys.
At least we all stay under time. So now we're going to move on to some topics and questions that will go to some, not all of the candidates. We're going to just break it up to make it easy for me, for you. This side will be Group A, that side will be Group B. So this first set is for Group A. Studies show people vote more with their feelings than facts. The Democratic Party struggles to connect emotionally and speak in everyday language. What is your plan to recruit, hire, and retain top communications and digital staff? As a social media person, this one's really important to me. That would deal with press, messaging, social media, and branding. Yes, Aaron. This will be Aaron Argio's one first.
So Aaron Arguello again, in case you guys forgot. Listen, so with the social media efforts, if there's anybody handling your social media who's above the age of 25, you're doing it wrong, because these younger generations, they understand social media, they understand what's going on. I told one of my daughter's friends the other day, hey, I tweeted this thing, I think it went viral. She's like, who tweets anymore? So you gotta keep, a youth crowd, right? And budget-wise, obviously, someone in college or fresh out of college, you go from $8 an hour to making working at Starbucks to $20 an hour for the Democratic Party as a social media manager. That's great, right? So in terms of recruiting, so we can't bring the social issues that we are using in urban areas to small town Texas. It's just not going to work. So there's people that are not having food to eat. There's people that can't pay the bills, and fighting the social issues. Okay, sorry.
I really need like a buzzer. I think that would be the way to go. Yes, it's going to be going to plan to recruit, hire, and retain top communications, digital staff that would deal with press, messaging, social media, branding, etc.
So
Mary Gomez is answering.
My name is Mary Gomez again. Trying to find people that we can trust again nowadays, guys, it's going to be really hard. But I would say we're going to need to vet a lot of the people that we do business with, period. And not just that, but we also need to make sure that they are a registered corporation, active with the state of Texas Secretary of State, and also that they have some kind of insurance, because there are corporations out there that are saying that they have so much experience, that they know what they're doing, and then they're not coming up with the results that we need. And we've felt this uncertainty since 2018, since 2022, when Beto's results were lower than we expected them to. He was our rock star. So I think we need to vet a lot of the people we do business with, and maybe open the doors to new media firms, new leaders that are good at what they do. But let's just make sure that we're doing business with proper businesses, guys. Thank you.
Thanks for that question, Kat. We have a real problem with messaging in our Democratic Party. In fact, we have allowed the Republicans to define who we are as Democrats. And we have got to take the offense on messaging. We've got to tell folks around this state what these right-wing nuts are doing to make a negative impact on their lives. And then the rest is just technical, right? We have social media experts that we can share that message with. In my platform at patsyintexas.com, I talk about creating a creators council. If we can solidify that message and share it with folks who are good at social media, then we can begin to turn the tide.
If you don't have the right message, I don't care who you hire, you're never going to be able to connect with the people. So the first thing you have to do is have the right message. If you have the right message with someone who can connect with the people, then that message will land. So what should that message be? That message should be the American dream issues. That message should be providing jobs, being able to afford to buy or build a home, education, healthcare, and affordability. If we've got that message, we're gonna connect with people and people are gonna vote for us.
Next question is going to be the other side. Whoever is elected will be responsible for the TDP staff. How do you plan to retain and attract talented staff executives and managers, as well as union eligible staff employees? And what are the important qualities of executives and managers on the TDP staff? What does professional development look like for all levels of staff? You still only get 60 seconds.
Thank you so much. Retaining staff is very important, and I've been able to do that as chair in Denton County, but our staff, and most of our staff, has been volunteer. So that makes it even more challenging. And in order to retain them, you have to be appreciative of what they do. You have to understand their strengths so you put them in the right position. And then you have to work with them as humans. Sometimes we have issues that come up, and we have to be able to give people the opportunity to be human and to go away. I lost my mom this year, and we were able, because we're organized, because our staff knows what they're doing, because we had a plan, they've been able to continue to move forward because life happens. And I think it's important that we understand that with our staff members. Professional responsibility or growth is important, and I think we should provide opportunities for them to learn. There are lots of trainings to learn in terms of how to do a lot of things. But I will say this, I believe the SDEC members are incredibly bright, and we need to start looking at that human capital first before we start spending money.
So I'm actually glad that I got this question, because at all the forums, I've been saying this a lot. I have tried to engage with the Texas Democratic Party here. I have tried to engage with the Harris County party as well. And I have not been able to get my foot in the door, and I don't understand why. If I want a job, I got to go to DC. You know, in DC, they'll give me a job quick. You know, I've held very high positions. You know, one of the things that I always say is that the Marines is the best leadership organization, and I carry those ideals with me today. It's about training people. It's about creating opportunity. It's about engaging them. You know, it's about giving them leadership positions and to empower them. So then that way, when you have to step away to do one of your other duties as a leader, they can carry on the mission. Thank you.
I think this is a great question, and I think that we have to start with the culture change, and we have to talk about appreciation. So I also want to take a second to thank everyone here that put on this event today. Thank you for moving the chairs, for setting the program, for taking the questions, because you are actually the backbone of the Democratic Party. And I think that culture of appreciation and trust and honesty and transparency is what we need to grow at the state party. When I was the Harris County Democratic Party chair, I kept the same staff for 2 cycles in a row at the local party. That was unheard of at the time. My campaign today is made up of most people that have worked with me in the past at different levels on different campaigns, because at the end of the day, I believe that we need to empower our people to build the best teams possible. The better teams we have, the more work we can do together. The more work we do together is the bigger we can fight, the bigger efforts we can push back against the Trump administration. So I think it all comes back to changing our culture to a culture of transparency and trust and honesty. So I would love to talk about this more and go back to the previous question at some point too. So if we can ever do that, I'd love that question as well. So thank you.
See how we do on time.
If you ask any great leader about structuring their organization, doesn't matter if they're private sector, public sector, what they will tell you is that culture trumps strategy every single time. And we have a lot of really great folks that work for the TDP, and they don't get enough acknowledgement, quite frankly. And at the end of the day, it's all about the culture and the tone that you set at the top. And I think that it's important that that leadership level is set to allow them to succeed, so that expectations are set and they're given the opportunity. If folks don't know who's on first or who's in charge, then they don't even have an opportunity to succeed right from the get-go. On the question about what types of qualities we look for, the number one quality I look for is collaboration. This is not like serving on a board or a campaign. You don't get to pick who you work with. All of our board members are picked for us. All of our candidates are picked for us. People in the community pick our county chairs. And we have to have people at the state party that are willing to collaborate with those leaders on the ground and work with them, not through them or around them.
Going back to this side of the stage, what is your experience recruiting candidates for office and your plan to recruit candidates for the 2026 cycle? And if you know of current recruitment programs of TDP, what are your thoughts?
So I've been out already, as I mentioned before, and the message I've been delivering to people is now we know what happens when we don't go and vote, and that's specifically to the Hispanic communities across Texas, because that's what we're protesting for right now, this mass deportation that's going on across the United States and Texas. But just messaging to them that you don't have to have power, you don't have to have money, you don't even have to have an education, you just have to care. That message resonates with almost every single person that I come across who wants to volunteer or who wants to work, including my campaign. My entire campaign was run by people who volunteered. We started out with people that we were paying, but we found out right away that it's just a big fat giant paycheck with the least expense going out being $5,000 a month. So I think that just letting people know that they matter and that they can make a difference in their communities, they will, and they'll do their best to make that happen.
Again, my name is Mary Gomez. When I first got involved with the Democratic Party, I had seen some things that I didn't like in my own hometown. And so one of the things that people told me is there's just not enough people who are involved. So the first thing I did was drive all around Hidalgo County and try to meet people in the community and ask them, hey, like, my name is Mary, I'm a Democrat, like, we're looking for people within certain precincts that could be representative of the community. I stopped in taco shops, I stopped in boutiques, wherever I would find. I kind of just drove around the county. I found one person that ended up wanting to be a precinct chair, and I realized it is a hard job to find people who are wanting to serve or who are willing to kind of put themselves out there. But what I started doing myself as a candidate, just so you guys know, I did also run for US Senate, and I got almost 50,000 votes with no money. And so that goes to show that I have a message. And one of the messages is that I want to tell people to just kind of be real like me and talk about everyday things that they have questions for. Right. So the message is there. Thank you.
So I do have experience recruiting candidates. When I was at Annie's List, a lot of what we did was recruit courageous young women to stand up and run for office. And we did that by working with people on the ground. I know you cannot sit in an office in Austin, Texas, and know what is going on around this great big state. So I spent a lot of time in my car. We built steering committees around the state, everywhere from El Paso, McAllen, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth, because those were people working on the ground who knew what the best candidates would be for their communities. And one of the things that we looked for as we recruited was a candidate that looked like the people they were hoping to represent. And I think that is absolutely critical as we go to recruit candidates for the state.
Woo! That's the second time I've got shot. I've never asked a candidate to run or recruited a candidate to run for public office, but I've definitely helped a bunch of candidates in their tries for public office. And one of those is Representative Carl Sherman when he was running for US Senate, when he came to East Texas. Now, for 2026, check out these men that I'm talking about. This is what my slate would look like, our partial slate. I would run Richard Fisher for governor, who's a Dallas businessman, former governor of the Federal Reserve Bank. I would run Lyndon Olson for lieutenant governor, which is a banker out of Waco, Texas, and he's a former ambassador to Sweden, I believe. I would run Beto for land commissioner, so we can carry the star power on down the ballot. Then I would also run Sylvester Turner for agricultural commissioner, so we can continue to carry that star power down the ballot. I forgot to say that. Excellent control.
Going back to the other side of the stage, the party really tries to make sure the ballot is filled with as many Democrats in as many positions as possible. How do you provide resources to all candidates while also letting them know and being realistic with expectations that not every race is winnable? Some candidates, when they lose, they blame the party after how we work to mend those relationships and, more importantly, avoid the mending in the first place. On to this side of the stage.
Thank you for that question. So in Denton County, the first time in over 30 years, we had our entire state legislative ballot filled. And that was going through, first of all, that deserves some recognition. Because we are a red county, but we fight hard, and it's disheartening for voters when they don't see people on that ballot. The part of the way that I was able to get that ballot filled, and I'm gonna use I because I'm running for chair, but please know that it is a we that makes things successful. And that is how our organizations run. It is a we. But part of getting people to run was being realistic with them and letting them know that it is not only financially burdensome, and I would tell them, don't take out your retirement. We need you to run. You need to we have to see where we are. We have to gauge. It helps people get excited. And we were able to get people to run in places where we knew that ballot was not going to flip at that time, but it helped. But as far as candidates, we offered so much training to our candidates. And you're exactly right. No matter how much training you offer, they still want more. But I think it all needs to come through our county parties and get them up to speed.
She saw that mic coming up and she was cut herself. Yes, the party tries to make sure the ballot is filled with Democrats in as many positions as possible. How do you provide resources to all candidates while also being realistic that not every race is winnable, and making sure, if you need to mend relationships with those who blame the party after their loss, or better yet, to avoid that mending being necessary?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question. In 2020, I was a campaign manager for 2 competitive state house races. I don't know how many of you remember, but the House Democratic Campaign Committee was targeting 9 competitive seats. I'll tell you this, half of those candidates were not qualified to run or did not want to do the work. They did not represent the ideals of the Democratic Party. So when we are seeking out these candidates, we need to make sure that they are public servants first. We need to call out bad behavior, right? We need to make sure that they stand up for democratic ideals, and that when we elect people that look like us, that they will vote in favor of us instead of falling in line to the status quo. Andy's List does an amazing job, and I gotta give big props to Patsy for the work that they do, because all around, that's the work that we should be emulating. Thank you.
I think that filling the ballot is incredibly important. So I'm going to give you 2 different examples of situations we had in Harris County when I was the party chair. Number 1, you might have heard of this woman. Her name is Lena Hidalgo. She came into the party office in 2017 and said, I want to run for office, but I'm not sure where I want to run for, which position. At that time, no one thought that we could win the Harris County judge's position. But Lena walked into the office with a clear vision of what she wanted to do with the county government position and a great background. So we said to her, Lena, we would like you to run for county judge. Lo and behold, because we had someone in that seat that was a great candidate, and we were able to win the county and for the first time in a midterm election in decades, because we put someone in that seat. The second story I'm going to tell you is about John Rosenthal. Does anybody know who John Rosenthal is? One of our great state reps who walked into the office in 2017 and said, I want to run for state senate. And we said, John, we don't think you can actually win that seat, but there's a House seat over here where we would like you to run and we think you can win. It's having conversations like that with candidates so you can figure out where they could fit on the ballot, and then holding their hand through the entire process from the primary through the general election to make sure that they had all the training they needed, all the resources they needed so they could run the most effective campaigns possible.
First, I'll say I'm no stranger to candidate recruitment. I was a part of the team that worked with the political department and with the non-urban caucus to recruit more candidates for office this cycle than what we have had in a very long time. 85% of state house seats. It was mentioned by Vice Chair Kathy earlier, but this question particularly was about candidates. I have been a candidate in a really tough area, and the problem is when you ask for help, folks look at you and they say, well, we don't have money to help you. Well, I didn't ask you for money. I asked you for help. Okay, there are resources and things that our party can put together so that these campaigns are not forced to reinvent the wheel. The party should be a clearinghouse for all of the advertising work that we do around the state so that every county isn't having to redo it. So that you don't have to have someone that specializes in Spanish language media in order to put a Spanish language ad on Spanish language radio. We as a party have to be operating smarter and working smarter, not harder. And I think that that process stands true with our candidates as well, to make sure that we're there uplifting them and giving them supports. I've been one of those candidates before. I know what they need, and I'm here to help build it.
Back to this side, we're going to move on to the caucuses of our party for this section. If elected, what steps will you take to repair damage caused to LGBTQ+ Texans by toxic rhetoric and show the LGBTQ+ community that our vote, our money, and our identity matters to the Democratic Party and its future?
So I've been endorsed by Joan Rivera Sinancelli, who is a huge advocate for the LGBTQI+ community in San Antonio, Texas. So hopping in the truck, driving around, talking to everybody, doing everything that we have to do to repair whatever it is that was said and done, being a part of all the meetings, letting them know that they're inclusion. We are the party of inclusion, regardless, you know. And so I think that collaborating with organizations that are across, like the Stonewall Democrats, everybody that's part of the Stonewall Democrats, collaborating with all of them, let them know that they do have a seat at the table. So that's gonna be my first step. Get with Joan Rivera Sinancelli and drive around and talk about what we have to do. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Betty Gomez. So I am RGB Stonewall Democrats, guys, and one of the things that we want to start doing is just getting involved with the community, letting people know that we are not any different. If a community identifies itself as LGBTQ, it's honestly not something that we should focus on. I think that we should focus on all as humans together, so that way we don't separate anyone from any type of society. But I think that people just need to be real. I'm sorry, guys, just come out and be yourselves and be yourselves wholly. Because one of the issues that I deal with a lot of my trans friends is they're not ready to go out and see the world, but just go out and see the world, guys. Like, I'm sorry, if not now, when? And so we gotta start integrating everybody so we don't feel excluded. Thank you.
So, great question, and I would answer it in two ways. One, the Democratic Party talks about being a big tent. I want the Democratic Party in Texas to be a big table where everyone has a seat, where everyone has a voice, and we pull that together to have a platform for the work we do. And then on the other side, I believe that the right-wing Republican nut jobs scapegoat members of the LGBTQ community. And they do that to put us all on the defensive. We need to take an offensive position and tell folks in Texas what these, mostly guys, are doing to destroy their lives. They won't have time then to scapegoat our members of the LGBTQ community.
Democracy means power to the people. The Democratic Party has always been the party of the people. We are a big tent party. We accept everybody who wants to be a part of it into our ranks. So it is never nice, it is never compassionate to single out a person or a group of people for something that you may not like. It is not nice, it is not compassionate, it is not good. We have to remember at all times, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Before we go to the other side of the stage, from up here, I can see this room looks a lot like Texas. It's a very diverse room. It looks like the Democratic Party. What GOTV strategies would you implement to engage Hispanic, Black, and AMHPI voters?
Thank you. The Democratic Party is a big tent party, but there's something that drives people to vote, and that is all of our desires to achieve the American dream. I don't personally believe that we have to change our messaging.
Grassroots level. As the next chair of the Texas Democratic Party, one of the things that I would do is support down ballot candidates. I would make sure that the Texas Democratic Party could pay for their coordinated mail plans. I would make sure that we could do paid canvassing for them, because that's going to be really important. And making sure that when we fundraise, that those dollars stay in Texas and they don't go up to the DNC. We also have to make sure that when we are talking to Latinos and the Black community, we need to make sure that we are using, whether it's consultant, whether it's strategist, whatever it is, that they represent their community. Thank you.
I'm gonna say this a lot because it's my lived experience. When I was the Harris County Democratic Party chair, we focused on Black and Latino and AAPI turnout as one of the first things we started to do when I got into the office. We did that by creating committees to bring more people into the party, and then we hired staff around the county that looked like the voters we wanted to talk to. And then we went around the county and did work and deprogramming throughout the year, not just during election time, but throughout the year, worked with communities around the county in order to get more communities engaged in the Democratic Party so that we could build trust in our party and build our community that way. But the other thing we did is when we got to election time, we did some more creative programming. In 2018, we ran the program for Black Girl Magic in order to elect 19 female Democratic judges in Harris County for the first time ever, which was historic. We did that by hiring local people who helped us build programs in communities around the county to take the pictures and do social media. But we also did a program called Say Something, where we went into music festivals and worked with hip hop artists and muralists around the county to do big vote murals around the county so that we could meet voters where they're at and talk to them about the issues that they care about.
The process that we've been going through isn't working. The idea that you hire one Black constituency outreach person for the entire state of Texas and tell them to go for it with no expectations and no guidance is setting people up to fail. Okay, we as a party have to rethink the way that we structure in our outreach. And that means coordinating, actually working with our constituency caucuses. It's okay to hire people that look like communities, but you also need to do that while working with the constituency caucuses and with the geographical regions that they're representing. It's important that we as a party set a strategic plan. We have 3 different columns: flips, protects, and districts we want to milk votes out of. You start at the top of what the highest priority is. You figure out which constituency caucus makes the most sense. I'm going to use an example. Let's say Mahela Police is at the top of that list. Say Representative Mahela Police protect. It would make sense to do AAPI outreach in her district. Let's work with Asian American Democrats in Texas, find someone that's on the ground there that is local, that works through them, set expectations, and work together with a plan, a strategy. Don't hire people just for political favors. Let's do things to actually move the goalposts and win elections.
Continuing with the caucuses of our party topic, this is one that right now, with what's happening in Washington, I receive hundreds of DMs daily about. What does partnership look like when you have over 1.4 million veterans in the state and you have 15 active duty military installations in Texas? What does a partnership look like? Rinse one more time. What does partnership look like when you have over 1.4 million veterans in the state and you have 15 active duty military installations in Texas? What does a partnership look like with the veterans in our state?
I think I got it. So a partnership with the veterans in our state. I guess I really don't know how to answer that question. I'll be honest with you, like, you know, what can we do for, do we have a purpose or just a partnership? Like,
It can be how you're engaging, how you're working with them.
okay, because yeah, I'm a little confused about the question, but yes, I mean, obviously, I'm a veteran myself, so working with the Texas Democratic Veterans Caucus would be important. I think that a lot of the Texas Democratic Caucus, Veterans Caucus right now, is against everything that's happening with Greg Abbott is giving to Donald Trump with all this land that's happening down on the border. I think we're all against it. I think that Vote Vets is against it as well. Vote Vets is a big organization that goes across America. They endorse vet candidates who are running for Democratic offices. I think reaching out to them and organizing with them and fighting against it and putting out, you know, messaging that goes against it and not agreeing with just because the military is ordered to be part of these mass deportations or these areas that they're being dispatched to, letting them know that it's not okay and that not all of us are with that. So, thank you.
So partnering with veterans, I unfortunately have not had enough experience, but the experience that I can tell you guys was when I met and married my husband, who was homeless at the time. There's so much that we need to do with them. And I know that even some law enforcement people won't work with them, but they have the power to do more for the veterans community. And so I think that if we empower the law enforcement community and give them the resources that they need for mental health and for medication, for housing, for computer technology, guys, because they don't know how to get their benefits, where to apply, who to call. They don't even have the patience to be on the phone to wait for somebody to come in. And I know this because of my experience, guys, right? So a partnership would just be to engage with them, period, and if we can maybe work with law enforcement. Thank you.
Well, the first thing I would do in building a plan to work with our veterans is talk to Frederick Nickens and Martha Williams, who represent the Veterans Caucus on the SDEC. After that, I think what we would want to do is maybe build a program for registering those veterans right here in Texas. They come from, you know, at the 15 installations around the state, folks come from all over the country and the world. And if we could get them to vote in Texas, that would help our numbers.
I'm a veteran myself. Spent 8 years in the Army Reserve, Sergeant E5. The first thing you would do is you would talk to Mr. Nickens about what the needs are of the veteran community. And then you go about meeting those needs.
For the other side of the stage, too often people with disabilities are not recognized. It's a diverse community that covers a range, including cognitive, emotional, and physical disabilities. How will you ensure that we have equitable representation within TDP's activities and bring awareness to the disability spectrum? We'll start with you, Ms. President.
Thank you. Honestly, I think all your questions have relatively the same answer. How do you engage Black people? How do you engage the disability community? How do you engage the veterans? We have to create a strategic plan at the TDP level that empowers our caucuses to go out and create that engagement. Right now, having talked to a lot of SDEC members and caucuses, I can tell you there is no such plan. There is no such empowerment with our SDEC members or with our caucuses. It is not going to be electing a chair who's going to drive around and go to all the Black churches or go to the Hispanic community. We have to understand that engagement has to be beyond just get out the vote. They're being engaged all year long from all types of media, including social media. We have to improve that aspect. That is an important aspect, an important leg on that table of 4 issues that I think we need a strategic plan. But the answer is, if we have a caucus that is representing the disability community, they should be a part of the process when we talk about how do we increase engagement. And that includes all of the caucuses for all of those communities. Thank you.
So, after serving in the Marines, after coming back home from Afghanistan, I was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury from an IED incident, and I was also diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I think the most important thing to show society is that we can be leaders, we can be engaged, and that these health issues that we deal with do not affect us in a way that it would affect our work. We keep talking about putting people in positions of power because that is truly what we need. I'm not going to be a subject matter expert on everything, right? But the important part is that we know that there are leaders within the community that we can put on councils, that we can bring into the TDP, hire them and say, hey, help us run the program. I wanted to go back to the veteran thing because I think that was a great question, but thank you so much.
When we were talking about making the party more accessible, I think one of the things that Delia hit on is incredibly important is that we need to change the culture we have at the party, which is one that should be built on honesty and transparency and trust and respect, which is listening to all of our caucuses and taking a moment to take a step back to look at the bylaws that we currently have, look at the structures we currently have, and make sure that our conventions and that our SDEC meetings are set up in the way that are most accessible to everybody, that there are places for people to store their medicine, for whatever the needs that we need for each event that we have, that everyone is around the table helping making those decisions. If we're talking about convention or SDEC, can we talk about hybrid voting? Can we talk about doing stuff online? Because we do live in a different age than we did 20 years ago. So we need to look at all the different tools we're using right now to run the party and the party apparatus to make sure that those are accessible to everybody. And one of the ways we do that is take a step back and sit and listen to each other when we discuss ideas and plans for conventions and figure out the ways to make it most accessible to everybody.
It's one thing to talk a lot about wanting to make our party more accessible. It's another thing to have done it. I was the individual who advocated to make sure that we had an accommodations representative on our conventions committee to make sure that our conventions were accessible. I actively participate with the Disabilities Caucus, where I am a member and have served on their bylaws committee. I believe that accessibility and just allowing people to be able to get in the door and feel comfortable and meet people where they're at is just a cornerstone of who we are, and it's essential to what we do. I also, moving forward, would like to see an accommodations line item in our budget so that if there are any accommodations issues that come up, we don't have to scramble for cash to try to make sure it happens. I'm going to go back and answer this question as well, because there's a lot of overlap in the disabilities and veterans communities, okay? And I want to make sure that we address this. I would love to continue conversations with the Veterans Caucus because it was pointed out to me that there is no veterans outreach plan for any state party in the state of Texas. We have 4 split house or potential flips in the state of Texas that are around Army bases. Let's show them how to do it, guys. What happened to Democrats having big ideas and big plans? We'll show them how to do it right here in Texas.
Back over here again, we're still on the topic of caucuses in our party. Some don't know that messaging on the environment can incorporate issues like labor and the economy. How will you make sure that environmental issues are not taking a back seat, especially considering how much the environment affects all stakeholders in Texas? I've got Howdy Jr. here, and I would love for him to have a beautiful Texas to grow up in just like I did. Yes. Some don't know that messaging on the environment can incorporate issues like labor and the economy. How will you make sure that environmental issues are not taking a back seat, especially considering how much the environment affects all stakeholders in Texas?
I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, that's a tough one, but I mean, we support our environment, right? Like, we're not gonna destroy it just because we want to drill, baby, drill, like Donald Trump says, right? I think that we should support wind turbines, right? I think that we can support solar. There's a lot of things that I already see up in the panhandle and I've seen around Texas that'll be beneficial. Look, it's not bad to have a generator, right? We're not saying that you got to stop everything, in terms of like dependent on solar and wind, but we're saying to use it as a backup. So, I mean, I think that, I guess the best answer I could give you is just, I support it and I would do anything that I can to protect our environment.
Hello. So one of the things that I was talking about when I was running for U.S. Senate is I wanted to change the whole game. And how we're going to change the game, guys, is the Corporate Accountability Act. And that is something I had been talking about on the campaign trail. I don't know if y'all remember that. But the Corporate Accountability Act would hold corporations accountable. And how are they going to how is it going to hold corporations accountable? As a merited tax system, corporations are more possibly going to want a better tax rate or pay less taxes, so they're going to make sure that they're friendly to the environment. And with the Corporate Accountability Act, the environment is going to be a big aspect to these corporations trying to pay less taxes, right? So, but it's going to have an after effect. Also, another thing, I know the state of Texas, when it comes to franchise tax, there are some tax benefits for solar and energy efficient improvements to the building. So I want to expand on those kind of credits in the state of Texas for corporations, and that'll probably influence them. Thank you.
So clean air and clean water are a basic fundamental human right. And we need to acknowledge that and use that as a foundation. And there are jobs to be had across the state in promoting solar energy, wind power energy, and cleaning effluent from factories. And we can talk about having a clean environment in the same sentence that we talk about economic security and growing good jobs across the state. And I think we need to focus in that way.
I don't think the environment is a winning issue for us. Over the last 31 years, from 1994 to now, we have 27 statewide elective offices. We've lost every last one of them since 1994. I think the first order issues that we should concentrate on are the issues of American Dream issues, the bread and butter issues, jobs, education, affordability, being able to send your kid to school whenever they need to, being able to buy or purchase the home. Those are the issues that we need to be talking about. These are the winning issues of Texas. We can't afford to lose anymore, guys. We've lost too many elections in order to be concentrated in making the first order issue the environment. It should be the American Dream issues, the kitchen table issues that we concentrate on.
All right, this next one is my Roman Empire right here. This is where I'm spending so much of my time right now on Howdy. Billionaires and self-identified Christian nationalists have invested millions of dollars into GOP campaigns and movements in an effort to pass the private school voucher scam in the Texas legislature. Many Republicans and independent voters do not support the ideologies of Christian nationalism, nor do they support the voucher scam. Do you see this as a chance for Democrats to win support? If so, how would you address it? Ms. Parker-Mims, you're up first.
I'm going to go a lot quicker now. First, regarding the environment, I'm going to ask the second question. Did you know that Biden passed the infrastructure bill and the rescue plan he addressed environmental issues. We did not engage with our public. They do not know what he did to help the environment. So engaging our public as to what we've already done and what we're doing is important, and stop letting them define us. We are not going to get those issues addressed if we don't get people elected. And we have to start messaging on issues that get us elected. We're all Democrats and we all know climate change is real. We all know that. So it's not a matter of whether or not we believe it or how we're going to implement it, because the chair is not implementing it. What we have to do is start increasing our engagement in all of the factors so that people know what we've been doing. In terms of the Christian nationalism, that is an opportunity to give people. And in my county, we were able to save our school boards from a MAGA takeover because nobody wants vouchers. And we have to go there in a nonpartisan way and talk about what the issues are and how it impacts everybody.
Yes. Billionaires and self-identified Christian nationalists have invested millions of dollars into GOP campaigns and movements in an effort to pass the school voucher scam. Many Republicans and independent voters do not support Christian nationalism nor the voucher scam. Do you see this as a chance for Democrats to win support? And if so, how?
I think so. Our messaging is going to be real important, but most importantly, we need to be talking to our rural counties, because these public school, not the public school vouchers, but these private school vouchers, the dismantling of the Department of Education in Washington, D.C. is going to directly affect them. And we need to say, hey, here in Harris County and Houston, we may not be worried because we have so many charter school alternatives and all that stuff. But when they start to take away funding from the public school system, guess what? Those rural county schools are going to close. And that's what needs to be our messaging when we're talking to our rural counties. There was a poll not too long ago that came out, and she's absolutely right that Texans do not support these vouchers. And so we need to engage our Democratic billionaires, just like HEB, because Howard E. Butts is one of the most progressive billionaires in the state of Texas. And we need to say, hey, help us get our message out. Thank you.
I have two kids that are currently in public school right now in Houston, where we have dealt with the TEA takeover and HIC, and it has been horrific to see what our kids have gone through. So what's happening in the public school system is something we need to talk about. We need to talk about very loudly. Last election cycle, we were able to defeat a bond in the city of Houston for HIC. There was billions of dollars on a bond that they wanted to pass to give money carte blanche to redo the schools. But because we organized at the local levels, we were able to prevent that bond from passing. The way we did that is we worked with our elected officials who are willing to stand up and speak against not against HIC, speak against the TEA and their takeover and the bond they were trying to pass. We also worked with our labor allies to make sure that we had people working at the polls every day during early vote, and we did block walking and phone banking and text messaging leading up to the election cycle to make sure that everyone knew that this was that they were trying to pass a bond to spend billions of dollars that were not actually going to benefit our kids and their education, but actually is going to make more profit for the people making the buildings at the time. So when you can collaborate and work together on these unifying issues, that is a chance for us to work together and win and push back on the Texas leadership.
I'm standing here today because a public school teacher grabbed a little boy with farm calloused hands by the face and told him he was smart. And for some people, that might sound stupid, but for a kid like me, from a town like mine, with a family like ours, it meant the entire world. There is a concerted effort by billionaires to pry that opportunity out of the hands of working people. And our party moves forward whenever we bear hug the idea that it is the working people of this country standing up against the billionaires and the banks. We are at our best as a party when we are protecting poor people from billionaires and banks. School vouchers are a thinly veiled attempt to privatize our public schools and tear them apart brick by brick. They are trying to fund coupons for rich people to send their kids to private schools on the backs of working families and working kids at the expense of your kids' future. When our party owns the idea that we are here for working people, not for the multimillionaires, not for the billionaires. And we understand that it is unacceptable to have billionaires, 66 billionaires controlling 70% of the wealth in this state. That's when we start to win over working people in this state.
I do want to recognize that we have Representative John Bryant, who's fighting vouchers very hard in Texas House right now. And you can go to don'tdefundmyschool.com to find out exactly how much vouchers will take away from your neighborhood school. Next topic we're moving to is fundraising and budget. I'm going to start over here again. When elected, you will inherit a projected budget, prior obligations, and the responsibility of managing the Democratic primary. What previous experience do you have to meet this task on day one?
Thank you. So I'm the owner and founder of a small company called Blue Rock Accounting and Tax Company, and I've been able to raise money. Recently, we raised about $6 million to do an acquisition with a company called MedShare. We had to get trying to get $1 million out of every bank, but we ended up having like 30 banks that we could choose from. We had to come up with $6 million, and so we could do this $200 million acquisition. So my entire career has been focused on taking companies public on the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange. I've been able to raise money to open up franchises across Texas. I've got a lot of significant experience in business and raising money. I've done it through the Democratic Party. We started a Veterans for Bethel. Having a name like Bethel, a lot of money will come in. So those are like, I feel like those are easy ways that we can raise money. But my experience has been all in finance, and I understand how assets work. I understand how mergers, acquisitions work. And I think that will benefit the Texas Democratic Party when I'm elected.
So with fundraising, I haven't had that much experience, but in the private sector, I grew up in a family business. We were one of the largest Latino-owned furniture stores in the nation. I worked for my dad. We were one of the first furniture stores that was Hispanic-owned in South Texas. We would make about $25 million a year. And so for me, and I had other competitors, especially other competitors who were gringos, and these competitors were always trying to kind of shut us down. But there's a paper that the University of Texas wrote on our family business, because basically what happened was nobody would finance to Mexicanos in South Texas. And so a lot of people down there, they didn't have nice furniture. They didn't have stoves. They didn't have little AC units. And we were the first ones. So I earned their money and I earned their respect. So I know that I can earn the respect of a lot of people all over the state of Texas. And so I'm looking forward to trying, guys. Thank you.
So let me tell you about my experience of very unexpectedly stepping into the role of executive director at Annie's List. It was June of 2014. We lost our executive director. I had a staff that was grieving. We were all in shock. We were getting ready to elect Wendy Davis and Leticia Vandepute to governor and lieutenant governor. We had made significant commitments to those women. And we came in with my amazing board of directors. We pulled our big girl panties up and we raised enough money to put hundreds of thousands of dollars in those women's races, and at the end, have still a sustainable organization. I am prepared to come in to the Texas Democratic Party a year and a half before the next election and build and help elect folks to office in 2026.
I have an MBA in finance from Texas A&M University. So I know how to manage money. I don't know how to raise money. So what I would do as chair is I would hire the best fundraiser that I could find in the United States, a person that has a track record and a history of success of raising money. And an example of the type of person that I would hire to do that for me, if she turned down being comptroller of state Texas, would be Ms. Fancy. I would hire someone like her in order to raise money for the Democratic Party.
This one we're gonna get real specific. How much do you believe the TDP needs to raise each cycle to be competitive in Texas? Get your checkbooks ready.
I think Beto raised about 80 million to run, and he was not successful. That doesn't necessarily mean you need that much if we are moving forward in a productive way. So I think that I would start with around that number, because that was our last biggest, strongest candidate that ran for the state, and possibly maybe even 100 million for cycles. And I like the other question, so I have a few more seconds left. I want to tell you about raising money for a county party. It's not the same as raising money for a popular candidate. It's not the same when you're in a red county and people are afraid to be Democrats. We were able to increase our fundraising by 900% in an area where even rich white men didn't even want their name on our Democratic donation list. You have to have a strategic plan to get out there and to raise money. It's not rocket science, but it is an effort to do that. And we were able to do that in Denton County, and able to pass that money into our Get Out the Vote, which helped our candidates and helped us to continue to increase Democratic turnout. Thank you.
I agree with Delia, as far as like the numbers go. We need to raise about 80 million to run a successful statewide program. And that means creating a robust fundraising program. It's not just about the TDP chair being a great fundraiser or anything like that, right? You can create email programs, text messaging programs, digital programs to encourage donations. But the thing is this, in Texas, donors are tired, they have fatigue. So we need to be more engaging with our efforts. I can tell you this, in Harris County, the parties are suffering. Do you know how much money Harris County currently has in the bank right now? Throw out a number, any number. We only have 20,000. And that is the largest city, that is one of the largest counties in the state. So we are all suffering. The most important thing to being a great fundraiser is about creating compelling narratives so you can engage the donors. Thank you.
I believe that in order for us to be competitive in the state of Texas, we need to raise about $40 million per election cycle. I think that people like Beto O'Rourke and Colin Allred have raised massive amounts of money, and that's amazing. But what they've done differently is they raise it for the campaign cycle leading up to the GOTV effort. I think we actually can raise a little bit less money than they do because you do year-round organizing. If you spend the money year in, day in and day out, you actually don't have to stockpile a ton of money at the end because you're building up an army throughout the state leading up to the election cycle and keeping them after the election cycle. So you have an electorate that stays engaged because you have Democratic workers that are working on the Democratic Party that are covering the entire state, working year round. And so I think that changes the number that you have to raise to be competitive.
This is longer than a 1 minute question, okay? But I'm gonna do my best. I'm doing my best. I currently serve in a role where I have a large amount of work that I do on the budget with the team, okay? In fact, I was the guy that spearheaded the efforts to bring transparency and accountability into our party finances, to make sure we had permanent auditing in our party finances. And so we've looked at this before. Obviously, you always want to have as much money as you possibly can. But in order to have programs like the year-round organizers that we want, in order to have a Spanish language comms department in addition to our Spanish language comms department, in order to have kind of all these different wish list items that we have, the budgets we've pulled in the past have been anywhere from $20 to $30 million. And it's also, anything on top of that allows you to compete in more of these 40 media markets that exist around the state of Texas. There has to be a 254 county plan, not just competing in Dallas, Houston, and Austin, right? Some of these media markets in places like Amarillo, where I was last night, are a whole lot cheaper to compete in than places like Dallas. And it's important that we're raising the resources to accomplish that, but that's what I believe is a realistic number for me.
All right, this will be the last question for this side before we move to closing arguments. You guys will also get the last one. Congressman Colin Allred's Senate campaign outperformed Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz by around 5.5 points. What are your thoughts on that metric? And what can Texas Democrats take away from that result?
That's a great number. I mean, and Beto got 3%, right? But I think we focus heavily on, I was in a meeting with the data team of TDP. And, you know, I was listening to some of the numbers that we're saying, and it appears that like all the voters are in urban areas. But the reason that the Republicans have control of the House right now, and the state House as well, is because they're investing in rural Texas. So I think that we need to be able to invest in these areas and be in these areas and be present in these areas so that we can have candidates who can run for an office and defeat these Republicans. They're not winning because of the urban. You know, in fact, we wouldn't have any representation if there wasn't, if we didn't, like, you know, Greg Casar, he's from Austin. If he didn't have Austin in his district, we wouldn't have any representation in the state house or in Congress. So I think that's good, but I think we need to shift our focus more to rural areas and not just bank on urban areas to win all these elections.
Yes, Congressman Colin Allred's Senate campaign outperformed Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Tim Walz by around 5.5 points at the top of the ticket. What are your thoughts on that metric? And what do you think Texas Democrats can take away from this result?
So I think one of the reasons why that Colin beat is because Colin is a little bit more of a bipartisan candidate, right? So towards the end, he was trying to attract both Republican and Democrat. And so I think Texans see that if we can work across the board and work together on issues that affect all of us personally, regardless of party, then more people will get out and vote. So that's what I kind of take away. And with Kamala's race versus Colin's, Kamala was more political and Colin was more table talk, more home issues. And so that's what I take away. Also, there's more to lose when it comes to Texas elections instead of like a presidential. So more people are gonna side with Colin than with Kamala. So thank you.
So I think that's a stat that can give us hope, Kat. We had tremendous headwinds in this 2024 election, and we are looking now to 2026, to a midterm election where we've had some folks in power who will have been and will continue to be very destructive. So if we can get our messaging right, if we can recruit the right candidates to run for office, if we can engage in culturally competent, continuous community engagement, there will be incredible opportunities for wins for Texas Democrats in 2026.
The way I look at it is he still lost. And that's not anything to celebrate. He still lost. According to the Houston Chronicle, All Red only campaigned in 34 counties in the state of Texas. There are 254 counties. He didn't campaign in the rural areas, which is 10 million people. So if you want to win statewide, there's no way you can win statewide if you leave out the rural areas and you don't reach 10 million people. We can no longer be the Texas Democratic Party of Dallas, Houston, Austin, and San Antonio, and maybe El Paso. We have to be the Democratic Party of Texas, and we have to campaign everywhere. I live in Rusk County, which is in East Texas, which is a rural part of Texas. And when campaigns come around, statewide campaigns come around, there is no evidence that statewide campaigns are even taking place. There are no yard signs. There are no commercials. There are no billboards. The candidates don't even come and campaign in East Texas or the rural areas. They pass us by. Beto was the only one that came recently. I called the All Red campaign and begged them. I said, I will set up a tour of East Texas for you if you just come. I didn't even get a call back. I didn't even get a text back. So there's no way we can win if we do not include the rural areas. We must do that.
All right, last question, and then we go to closing statements. What lessons should we take from the recent election cycle, and how will you apply them moving forward?
We have to know by now, focusing on issues that are not inclusive of all Americans, not inclusive of the American dream, does not increase our turnout. We thought they cared about kids in cages, they did not. We thought they cared when George Floyd got choked out, they did not care. We thought they would care in Texas when women started dying in the hospitals, and we thought nationwide they would care. I think we have to learn right now that they do not care about those issues when they are having a hard time surviving and achieving the American dream themselves. I believe we have to start messaging in a way that broadens our tent. And I tell people, this is what Martin Luther King did when he was murdered. He started talking about the 1%. He started talking about economic opportunity, economic justice. He moved away from the smaller issue of racial justice because the Civil Rights Act had already been signed. When he started talking to poor whites and saying it is not blacks or browns that are holding you down, but the 1%, he was murdered because it is about the economic issues, and we have to learn right now that that is what moves people to the polls.
What lessons should we take from the recent election cycle, and how will you apply them moving forward?
Absolutely, we need to take the messaging back. Republicans, every time will take our message and twist it and use it to their advantage. So we cannot get into these petty arguments with them. Don't get me wrong. Listen, I know President Obama said when they go low, we get high. No, I'm petty. I'll go even lower. So I'm going to match your energy. You know what I mean? But most importantly, like Steven said, we do need to be organizing in the rural counties. I have to give big props to the Georgia Democratic Party. I worked as a mail consultant on the Senator Raphael Warnock campaign, and I saw what they did. They have monthly meetings with their rural councils. They keep them engaged. They keep messaging to them. All these different organizations work together. Everybody's talking to each other. The Georgia Democratic Party was able to flip the state, and we should be taking the blueprint and following that. Thank you.
I think we're at an inflection point right now. We need to look back at this last election cycle and honestly ask ourselves, what did we do well and what did we not do well? I don't think we need to point fingers. I don't think we need to lay blame. I think we need to have an honest conversation in this room when it comes to the SDEC members, when it comes to TDP, when it comes to our county chairs, when it comes to our precinct chairs. What are the things that happened this last cycle that we did well, and what did we not do well? And it's okay that mistakes were made. I will tell you, in Harris County, we might have won our county administration offices, but we did not carry all our judges over the finish line, which means we made mistakes in Harris County. We need to look back and see, did we run a program that was extensive enough to actually get all of our voters out? Did we talk to our voters? Did we meet our voters where they were at? Did we talk to them about the issues that they cared about? If we didn't, that's okay. We need to just say, okay, what are the steps we need to do to actually have a statewide win? What are the things we need to do building up in 2026? The power in this room is the people in this room. So how do we engage everybody on an electoral plan so that in 2026, we get back to our 2018 margins? We look at 2028 as a competitive year, but if it's not a year for us to win statewide, that's okay, because we're going to be at the table for redistricting for 2030, and then 2032, we look at a presidential win in the state of Texas. So I think we just have to have an honest conversation about where we are as Texas Democrats and where we want to go, and then all come together around that plan.
I'm not going to beat issues like messaging like a dead horse, okay? Like, I think a lot of us understand some of that. I want to talk to you about what I hope that everyone on this stage has learned from this election. And it was that there were 1.3 million people who voted in 2020 that didn't vote in 2024. And 200,000 of them were Republicans and 1.1 million of them were Democrats. What is the lane of the party? It is to turn out Democrats. There are too many people in this state who have been taken for granted by this party that we just assume that they're going to show up and we never reach out to them. We never make contact with those folks. People that we deem to be good Democrats, we need to be in contact with them to make sure that they are showing up. That is the lesson that I learned. I think that as a party, we need to own our shit, right? It's not about self-preservation. It's about owning what messed up and trying to move forward from it. This is the thing that I think all of us wanted to do. I think if you were sitting in the room, every coordinated campaign discussion I had around the state, people were saying, expand the map, go to lower propensities, super low propensities. Turns out we should have been talking to our Democrats. Let's own it. Let's figure out how to assess and move forward. That's the lesson that I learned. I'm ready to be the Democratic chairman to fight hard to turn out Democrats to vote.
Now, for the closing remarks. Each candidate will have a max of 60 seconds. Maybe that's the challenge of it. Can you get it all in 60 seconds? You get like an extra point on your ballot for that.
Before you start my time, can I say something? I have to leave after this forum, guys, because I've been feeling kind of ill, and I almost just about fell out on the stage. So I just wanted to know it's not that I don't want to talk or anything like that. But if you can get my name on the TDP website as one of the candidates, you can just Google it, and then you can reach out to me there, or however you guys want to do it. I just want to say that. Go ahead and start my time. Thanks. Sorry about that. So anything that could have been done would have been done already. If you're somebody that wants to start a business, I can sit with you and we can go over numbers and talk about everything all day, and I can create what's called a pro forma statement for you, and we can make these projections and go to the bank and try to get a loan for you, and they might give it to you, right, with decent credit. But if you don't go out and produce, you're not going to get none of that revenue that you're promising yourself that you're going to do. And that's what we have to do here in Texas now. There's a big void in Texas. In Texas, there's a big need, and we need to fill it. We need to do something about it. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to go across every single town, every single county, and I'm here to work with everybody. I don't want to talk about what coulda, shoulda. Yeah, I can sit here and plan and strategically do everything that I want to do, but unless I'm out there in the trenches with you, working with you, beside you, we're not ever gonna win this state. And the bottom line is, I'm tired of losing. We're tired of losing, and we got to do something about it. And I hope you're all with me. And as your next chair, I'll make sure that we win more elections, get more people recruited, and raise more money than anybody can. Thank you.
So, closing arguments. I believe in the Democratic Party, guys. I was raised to be a Republican, and I just cannot accept so many things that they do and say. And it's unacceptable that a lot of the people are supporting them. But remember, Texas is not a Republican state. It's a non-voting state. As the Texas Democratic Party chair, I want to bring those voters in, find new voters, recruit new Democratic candidates. We have people like Bobby Pulido who are getting ready to run for Congress in District 15. And we have other candidates like Legal Barbie, who is married to an immigrant, and she is ready to, we need to inspire people like that to run, that feel empowered, that are educated, that are influencers. And so as your next state party chair, I really want to also bring a lot of integrity into the party. A lot of the people are not donating because they don't believe that we're doing what's right with the money. And what has happened recently is kind of the reason why. You know, the results need to be shown. We need to hold people accountable that are going to be doing business with us. So thank you very much, guys. I'll do that.
So everyone up here on this stage is a good person, and we all want good things for our fellow Texans. However, this is not a popularity contest. This is about who can work within a complicated and often fractured democratic ecosystem to articulate a strategy, to build a plan, to win elections. And I hope you'll agree that I am the person to do that. There are a couple of things that set me apart from my other candidates. One, I know how to raise money, and that will fund programs. Two, I have run a winning statewide organization. I'd like to bring the relationships I've built doing that to the Texas Democratic Party. Three, I am not a consultant. I have never taken a dime from a candidate or the party, and you can count on me to have the Texas Democratic Party as my #1 priority and winning races into 2026 and beyond. Learn more about me at patsyintexas.com. I would love to have your support so that we can work side by side to win elections into the future.
I would like to see us connect more to people. I have worked real hard in the rural parts of Texas. I've been to trail rides. I've been deep in the woods, in the backwoods of Texas. I've been down the black oil top roads, and I've seen people who have lost hope. I've seen people who have forgotten how to dream. I think if we as a party could be more unified amongst ourselves, that we'd be more able to connect with just an ordinary person. I think we've lost our ability to do that. So over the last 31 years, you guys have asked us questions for the last 2 hours, and I'd like to ask you a question. My question to you is this. Over the last 31 years, what are we doing wrong that keeps subjecting us to these losses year after year after year after year? What are we doing wrong?
I'm gonna ask everybody to take your phone out and go on votedelia.org. Very simple, votedelia.org. Because we've only been able to talk for a minute. You know, we're not always all excited at the same time, but I have a very extensive outline of what I think we need to do and how we need to move forward. We are at a crossroads, not just in America, but in Texas. I'm concerned about Texas because our governor does not care about Democrats. When I say he doesn't care, he's not intimidated. He's not afraid. He is doing things that is already authoritarian because we are not putting up a challenge. I am not part of the TDP process, and some of you have asked me about that, and will that be a hindrance? Well, let me tell you right now that I think that that is exactly what we need. When you are on fire, you got to stop, drop, and roll and do something different. If we're going in the wrong direction, we don't just need to change the leadership. We need to change the direction and do something bold. I stand before you as a county chair who has done everything that we need at the state level and at the county level, what we need to do at the state level. And I'll ask you guys to look at my website and consider a person who has done what we need to get done. Thank you.
One more time. Sorry, it's my TBI. That's why I constantly, if you look through the forums, I am constantly asking them. It's my TBI.
No worries. It's just your closing statement and why you should be TDP chair.
So running the TDP is going to take a dynamic leader with a long-term strategy that isn't afraid to fight. One of the things that the Texas Democratic Party needs is someone that's willing to brawl, that is willing to take on Republicans. Hell, do you think Republicans scare me? Hell no. I face the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. You know what I mean? So Republicans, you ain't gonna freaking scare me. I'll tell you this, not only have I've ran a national organization engaging veterans across the country, bringing them to Washington, D.C. so they can talk to their members of Congress. I have built coalitions. I have worked with the Department of Defense, with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and members on Congress. So I know what it takes with not just messaging, but with advocacy programs and making sure that we are building long-term strategies to win statewide. Thank you.
I think I should be the next TDP chair because I have done the work. If you want someone who's been in the trenches with you, if you want someone who has worked on every aspect of a campaign, if you want someone who's raised $5.5 million for the local party, if you want someone who's raised $35 million for federal candidates, state candidates, and local candidates, I have a proven track record. I have been doing fundraising and working on campaigns for the last 15 years. I have done it as a volunteer. I have done it as a paid operative. I have done it as a consultant. I have done it as a staff person. At the end of the day, if we want to talk about what we're all doing here together in this room, we are here because we are Texas Democrats. We are not here because we want to get our asses kicked every election cycle. We are here because we want to start building power. We want to start building power for 2026, 28, 30, and 32. How do we do that? We start relying on local leadership like Cardall in the back of the room to make sure that we're trusting him when we're building out a program in Dallas County. We're working with Gabe in Tarrant County and Justin to make sure, and Crystal to make sure that we are building out programs here that are reflective of our values and working with the TDP and the county parties and the SDEC, because I think at the end of the day, we are stronger together, but you have to be able to work in a room together. And I think that I'm the person who's worked on every aspect of the campaign, can come with the ability to build a coalition and to raise the dollars to do it.
I've given my entire life to this party. Some people might say that I'm a bit obsessed, okay? And the reality is that the future leader of our party needs to be a person who shows up, who throws down, and who plays well with others. In the last election cycle, I put more than 35,000 miles on my truck going around the state, helping where I could. My priority was to be helpful. If you ask county chairs around this state or candidates around this state who they call when they needed help, it often wasn't the TDP. It was my cell phone, and I showed up when they needed me. Whenever Democrats want to show people that they are fighting, they need a leader that throws down. I hope I've shown you that I'm a person that's ready to throw down and take on Republicans when that's necessary. And if we are going to really be serious about restructuring and reforming this party, we need somebody who's done it before and someone who has relationships with members of the SDEC. You know I'll never steamroll you. You know I'll never treat you with disrespect. I want to work with you to build a Texas Democratic Party that's worthy of the people of this room, because you deserve a state chair that works as hard as you. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for throwing your hat in this race and for your dedication to the cause. And thank you, audience, for joining us for this important conversation. I said I brought Howdy Jr. with me, and buddy, I hope you'll take a look around, because the fight for a better Texas is built in rooms like this. And there are people that have been fighting this since before you were born, before I was born. And they keep giving up their Saturday afternoons to fight for that better Texas. So in school, when they ask you what democracy looks like, it's this room.